But Piggies is highly regarded as one of the best, if not the best games in the Angry Birds series, hell even as the best mobile game, which I honestly agree with. It was first teased on August 27th of 2012. The Bad Piggies made their own Facebook and Twitter accounts and were saying that they'll soon be revealing something. 3 days later, Rovio uploaded a video on YouTube with red on a white background, pigs falling from the sky and the text "something pig is coming." On September 4th, the game was revealed and it released on September 27th and was a massive hit, even hitting the top of the App Store charts just 3 hours after release. So what makes this stupid game so good? Bad Piggies is a puzzle game and it tells the Angry Birds story from the pig's point of view. But the plot isn't anything crazy and it simply gives a reason for the player to start building contraptions and help Ross reach the exit of countless stages, each being a challenging yet intuitive and fun puzzle. To beat every level you have to be very creative and you can build things like a simple car, a plane or a fucking disaster, and you have to do so with a limited set of parts, like wheels, balloons, rockets, engines and so on. Building is really simple, all you have to do is drag a part where you want it to go and it snaps into place. You also have a limited amount of space to build the vehicles, which makes you think outside the box, or inside the box, I guess. You also need to have a basic understanding of physics like weight and aerodynamics to build vehicles well. The game features 6 main episodes, most with 45 levels. For every 4 levels there's also one bonus level, not required for progression, unlocked by getting a specific amount of stars from the previous 4 levels. There's also the 7th episode, Roadhogs, which is a lot different from the rest. It has 8 large stages where your goal is to beat them as fast as possible. If you master the game's mechanics, you'll also be able to get every star in every level, which could be any of the following. Simply collecting one from a tricky spot, reaching the goal under a time limit, without damaging your vehicle, with King Pig, or without using a specific part. This also means that every stage has 3 different challenges, which adds replay value. Before you build your masterpiece, you can tap the magnifying glass to check out the level and see what you need to do for 3 stars. If you need some help, you can tap on this thing right here, which gives a very basic explanation of how each part works. If you need even more help, you can try using power-ups. Glue, making your contraption practically unbreakable. This snail shell ass looking thing speeding up your vehicle. Magnet, which makes starboxes go to you when you're near. This yellow thing, which instantly builds the perfect vehicle for beating the stage with 3 stars. This power-up also usually gives you more than one vehicle to choose from, as in some levels you can't get every star in one go. And the night vision goggles, which light up dark levels. However, not every power-up is usable in every stage. Like, it would be kinda stupid if you could use the night vision goggles in bright levels. There are also a few open sandbox levels, each with at least 20 stars to collect. 10 of them are themed around existing episodes, while 4 others have their own themes. They are perfect if you just want to mess around with the game's mechanics. There's also customization. Every part in the game has tons of variations, which you can get from loot boxes or this funky machine, in which you use scrap metal to get either 1, 2 or 3 star items. There's also King Pig's throne room. Here you feed King Pig to get scrap metal, snoot coins or power-ups. Of course you can't have a mobile game without microtransactions, so in the game's shop you can buy either loot boxes, power-ups or Field of Dreams. The only thing that's actually worth buying is Field of Dreams. Customization parts and loot boxes are pretty easy to get for free, and of course you can just look up YouTube tutorials to avoid using power-ups. Hell, the game even has glitches to get power-ups for free. This game has the most useless microtransactions of any game I've played, it's crazy. Going back to the title screen, there's another whole button to press. The game's second main mode is Cake Race, a multiplayer race against an opponent to see who can nab 5 cakes the fastest. This mode is super unbalanced. The score highly depends on your level, so if your level isn't high enough, you're basically out of luck to get first place in the season. And yeah, the multiplayer's against ghosts. And finally, about the game's presentation. First off, the art style. It's the classic Angry Birds art style, of course, so somewhat simplistic but very colorful, and it looks good. The music is also great here. I don't really have any experience in the music industry, so my music describing skills aren't top notch, but you know, this song sounds like I'm about to go on some crazy ass ride, and this song sounds like I'm about to build a fucking disaster. There is also a lot of attention to detail. Things like the pig being very expressive, and depending on what's going on it can be excited or scream from fear, or when you crash there will be cartoon text popping out, along with tons of sound effects. Things like these make it so that failing can be as much fun as winning, which I haven't really experienced in any other games. Now with the analysis out of the way, it's time for the review. I'll be reviewing just the actual episodes and not the sandbox levels, since most of them are honestly kinda similar. Add these, to these, to these, one this, to these, and you're set. So I'm gonna be rating all of these episodes from 0 to 3 stars, and starting with Groundhog Day. The first of the bunch, and of course being the first one, the level design and parts you use are pretty simple, but it's not a bad thing by any means. I really like the simplicity here. Everything is just straight to the point, like here's the star, here's the goal, take these 2 nukes and go f***ing wild. While the first couple levels are on the easy side, the later ones, while still looking pretty simple, can be quite tricky to solve. This episode also introduces a good chunk of the parts in the game. So while this is a pretty simple episode, it's still very fun. I personally really like these simpler Bad Piggies levels. Rise and Swine. This one's mainly all about climbing on walls with these sticky wheels, plungers and punching boxes. I feel like this episode is a bit too focused on these 3 parts. I wish there was a few more levels using other things. Also, for some reason you can beat most levels with the 2 wheels 3 blocks kind of car, the most basic vehicle you can make, and it working so well in so many levels with maybe like a plunger in the front or some engine brings this episode down. Because essentially you don't have to think and it just makes the episode feel a bit more repetitive. But this episode is still lots of fun. When Pigs Fly. This one is all about flying, and my main problem with this episode is just how slow it can get. Like I could probably go to the toilet, take a shit and come back before these stinky ass balloons make me go up where I want them to. The later half of this episode though, man, it's good. Flying using planes is fun, flying at high speed with rockets is even more fun, it's all excellent stuff. However, it's pretty hard for me to rate this episode above 2 stars because it's a slough to go through in the first couple of levels, but this episode is still really good. Flight in the Night. I really like this episode because of how weird the solution to each level can be. This episode really makes you think outside the box. Sometimes a pretty basic car will do, sometimes you have to drive on the ceiling with rockets, and sometimes you have to attach a plane to a car with a rope. I feel like Bad Piggies is at its best when it forces the player to build the craziest contraptions, which this episode does a great job with. Dusk Till Dawn. Another phenomenal episode themed around Halloween. All about going at high speed, crazy layouts, loop-to-loops everywhere, it's gallons of fun, like any Bad Piggies episode really. This episode also has its own music, which helps it stand out even more. If I really had to point out a flaw, it's that some of the bonus levels are way too hard, or that the episodes is just too short. It's the only episode out of the 6 main ones to have just 2 chapters, which is just so lame. But yeah, great episode nonetheless. The Road to El Porcado. This one is usually the most disliked out of them all, and while I can sort of get behind that, this episode can still be tons of fun. The main problems in this episode, in my opinion, are the first 2 chapters, with the levels in these being either super hard or just dark as shit. Like one of the levels in this chapter required such a strange solution to 3-star, it's not even funny, it looks unintentional. But then you get to the last chapter with the ice levels and sliding around at high speed is great, and I really wish they focused on that a bit more. The ancient temple theme is great, but not executed all too well here. Like yeah, the puzzle solving is there, but they just went way too hard on it. And also this episode has its own music, which is great, but it's a huge shame only 2 episodes have their own soundtracks. And the last episode, Roadhogs. I don't like it as much as the rest. Sure, going fast is pretty entertaining, but failing after being almost at the end and having to drive for like 50 seconds again pisses me off. Not much else to say about this one, but I guess it's good at what it does. So overall, I think Bad Piggies really deserves the title of one of the best mobile games ever, and it really stood the test of time. It's still a fantastic game that everyone that likes phones and games should try out. The only issues I can think of the top of my head is the multiplayer being kinda crap, ads, and the game honestly being kinda short. Like sure, over 250 levels and 16 sandboxes, that's nothing to sneeze at, but this game can honestly really suck you in, and before you know it, you've already beat it. Also, I feel like every episode in this game makes a better identity for itself than episodes in regular Angry Birds games. Like sure, I remember that episode with the levels, the bigger levels, and the bigger birds. In Bad Piggies I can clearly recognize each episode and what it was all about. Of course, with every great game comes demand for a sequel, and whoops, it was cancelled. There was apparently a sequel to Bad Piggies in the works at one point, but not much is known about it except that it would take place in space. Pretty interesting concept, I must say, really unfortunate nothing came of that idea. But But Piggies 2 is currently in development. No space theme this time, but from all the mock-up footage we've seen, it's shaping up to be really what the fans have been waiting for, with things like new parts, new multiplayer, new microtransactions. Apparently the game's art style will be chosen via a survey they held about the game a while back. It will be either classic, tunes or movie, and if the classic style wins, I'm gonna be so mad. Like, people are picking it because of nostalgia, like, just play Bad Piggies! And with Rovio Classics Angry Birds, you now have so much classic style everywhere, you're gonna get fed up! In my opinion, if they pick the classic style for this game, it won't be Bad Piggies 2, but more so Bad Piggies 1.5. Also, can I just use this as a moment to talk about the names people use to refer to art styles? Like movie, tunes, classic, sure. But Chrome? Pre-Chrome? Like, Jesus Christ, what's next? F***ing Firefox?